Well, I am looking forward to today. I hope you enjoy it as much as I have enjoyed preparing for it because, every week I usually ask out in advance in my prayer time, what am I to talk about? And what I wanted to do last week, I asked many of you, what would you like? I'm always talking about what's on my mind, and so I gave it to you. I said, what are your spiritual questions? What would you like for me to talk about next Sunday? And I received 11 questions, and kind of all over the place. So put your seatbelt on. We've got 11 things to cover, and that includes some 2- and 4-part questions. So we'll get to that one. The first one begins with what I thought, this is my favorite one, and I'll call it a very deep spiritual question. It's a 2-part question. And the first part of the question is, do you feel you have to be a good singer to be a good minister? I'm not sure who asked that. They're all anonymous, so the answer to that is no. I do not. I know lots of good ministers who cannot carry a tune in a bucket, as we say in the South, so I don't think that. But the second part of this question I really like. They said, has music helped you find your spiritual passion? If so, how? And I want to save that until last. I'll come back and I'll end with that one. But when I first read the first question, do you have to be a good singer to be a good minister? That was actually the first question I opened, and I thought, is that a spiritual question? And I kid you not, the second question I opened is, what is spirituality? As it would so often be. What is spirituality? Well, I love that question because in church we use the word spirituality a lot, and in Unity especially we tend to use the word spiritual rather than religion. Amen? Yeah. And the reason for that, I think, is for a lot of people, organized religion means somebody else tells you exactly how it has to be. Spirit tends to be more organic, more intimate, more individual, more universal. But from its most fundamental level, spirituality really means anything that has to do with matters of the Spirit. When I really sat with that question, here's some of the things that came up for me. In many ways, our true nature is a mystery to our everyday mind. Our true nature is a mystery to our everyday mind. We spend all of our life trying to save our life, knowing full well we're going to die. Correct? And so our true nature is a bit of a mystery to us. Spirituality, when we talk about spirituality, and the more we can use the term and think in terms of spirit, it helps us acknowledge that our spiritual nature is our essential nature. This is something I had actually written years ago, copied from someone, I don't know where it came from, but it said, spirituality connects you with this profoundly and powerful divine force that's present in all the universe. One of the most powerful and useful ways to define spirituality for yourself is to recognize and nurture that divine spark deep within. Everything in the physical universe emanates from an invisible source, from spirit. Spirituality, then, is about growing this spark that's inside each and every one of us to become a more dominant force, a presence in your everyday life. By nurturing the seeds of divinity that are inside of each and every one of us, we start to deliberately work with the very laws, the principles that govern life in the physical world. To me, that's what spirituality is all about. The next question is similar in some ways. It said, what do you think the difference is, if any, between soul and spirit? How many of you have questioned that? What's the difference between soul and spirit? Nobody? Okay. How many of you would like to question it? Yeah. What's the difference between soul and spirit? Well, let's begin with spirit. I said earlier, spirit, the root of the word spirit is the same as the root of the word for breath. You can think of them as being synonymous. Spirit is life force. Spirit is the animating principle, whether you're a tree, a frog, a person. We all have spirit, because without spirit, we die. So spirit is everywhere present and yet not necessarily seen. We can't see it, but without spirit, we know that we die. Spirit is synonymous with life. Spirit transcends all things and is immanent in all things. In other words, spirit can be thought of as something mystical and majestic outside and beyond us, and simultaneously, it's that which infuses and animates us. Spirit is the single great eternal mystery that permeates and animates everything in the universe, holds it together, and also transcends it. That is spirit. So what is soul? I like poetry sometimes when you try to understand what are the differences for this. Every soul is an agent for spirit, just like every body is an individual expression of spirit. Every soul is an agent of spirit. Bill Plotkin, in his book Soulcraft, says, "The soul is like an acorn. Just as the acorn gives instructions to the oak about how to grow and what to become, the human soul, a type of spiritual blueprint, carries a pattern or an image that shows us how to grow, what gifts we carry, and the nature of our true life. Unlike oak trees, however, we humans are capable of ignoring or refusing the flowering of our own soul." David White, the poet, said, "Your soul is like the one line that is already written within you." In a nutshell, spirit gives you life. Spirit is life. Soul gives you identity. Your soul is your individual identity. It is your individual unit of life force that makes you unique. Now, that's a really deep question, because when you start talking about soul, you get into things like reincarnation and what do you believe about soul? And we won't go into all of that today, because thank God nobody asked that question. They just just said the difference between soul and spirit. Yeah. Dion Fortune wrote, "The glory of God can only shine forth in manifestation when there are forms to manifest it." So you can think of your soul as sort of the unseen form, the blueprint, if you will, that contains God, and from that, your individual life is created. Just like, I like to use the term, if I say orange and a piece of fruit, an orange, everyone can picture an orange. There's this universal idea of an orange. And yet if we consume a whole bag of oranges, we do not get rid of orange. Well, so it is with our soul. The soul exists, and then it is formed in individuals. I'm sure that cleared that right up for you. Spirit gives you your life, soul gives you your form and your identity. Let's keep it that simple. The next question, what is the divinity, one person asked. This one, I think, in this context, I think about, if you think of two things, what is humanity and what is divinity? Our human part of us is our physical part that will one day cease to exist. Your divinity is the metaphysical or the spiritual part of you that will never cease to exist, because spirit always is existing in the unseen realm. So humanity, human form, divinity is the metaphysical, but it transcends the physical, and it does not cease to exist. Question number 5. Now listen to this one, just like so I could sum this up. What do you feel the purpose of our lives are? Anybody want to confess to asking that one? Not a chance. You know, it's probably all the women who went to the women retreat who asked all these questions and said, I'll give her something to work with next week. How many of you have, seriously, how many of you have really had times in your life where you've had to sit and ask, what is the purpose of my life? Absolutely, we've had to do that. And how many of you have come to what you felt like was the purpose of your life, and then something happened and you realized that wasn't the purpose of your life? Yeah, absolutely.